Welcome, welcome to another amazing Go Tiny Pro Show. Also a Go Tiny Academy meetup. This is the one time a month where we open up the Go Tiny Academy to the public and we welcome in leaders leading the industry. And I'm super excited to share more about Ash, who's coming up in a second. But I wanted to just share with everyone some new things that are coming along the pipeline for the world of our Go Tiny Academy. I was doing consulting calls over here and academy stuff over here, and now I have blended them all into 3 levels of the Go Tiny Academy. There's the base course, which is 1-year access, $97. And then there's the Go Tiny Academy VIP, where we do the base course plus 3 hours of consulting. And that really helps people that are dealing with the land issue, trying to figure out what the journey is. Oops, you unmuted, and then I asked you to unmute. And then there's the final package, which is the Academy Elite Plan, and that gives you access to the course plus 3 hours of training with me, plus you get the weekly calls. And that's what's happening here. Welcome to anyone that has not been a part of the Academy so far. This is our weekly call that you get to do a little dive into, and I'm so excited. We got Kathy and Erica and Lakeisha here on tonight, and they are the regulars that are up to some amazing things with their projects. So actually, I'd love if any of one of you, Kathy, Erica, Lakeisha, want to share one thing that you just love about these weekly calls and why you make it a point to show up here. That'd be great to hear. If you don't, then I'll leave it muted for a moment. But if you want to unmute yourself, they all know I'm a welcoming, informal bunch. People can unmute and mute themselves versus like webinars that you can never mute or unmute. Kathy, Lakeisha, Erica, anyone want to share what your goal is in this academy and why you show up on the weekly?
I would just say I show up just to meet new people and learn new things and learn what I don't know, right? And share what I can share that might be helpful.
Kathy's got a lot of years in real estate experience out on the East Coast and now moved over to San Diego, where Ashley's at. So perfect connection right there. Another awesome sister in your local area. Ashley is a local in San Diego. So boom, we've already done that magical moment of connecting. Lakeisha, what do you got? Anything?
Hello. I am here to learn. I have learned so much. I am just so thankful for this academy. Lindsay is a total, complete wealth of information. And there's no place I'd rather be on Wednesday but here with you guys. So thank you so much, Lindsay, for everything that you do. So no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to be on, even if I'm moving and grooving, which I usually am. But you're the best. I appreciate this academy. Just really, I do.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
Oops, we had a little feedback there. And anyone else want to share? Erica's brand new. Erica and her husband actually build food trucks, and now they want to start building tiny homes. What an amazing opportunity. I've got my personal like Go Tiny Cafe because my husband's a chef, half home, half cafe. Like it's going to happen. That is going to happen. So all kinds of things. And Cheryl and I have known each other for years, even though you're not in the academy. You're welcome. And I love that you're working on a project right now with your own tiny home land. Is that going well, Cheryl?
They got a lot of snow up there this winter, so I'm not sure if they're drilling for
okay.
water.
That's right. A lot of things changed for that.
Yeah.
And I love that we have the bunny in the room. That's super awesome. Hi, Kate. That is super cute. Okay, so we're going to dive in to the topic and the introduction because Ashley is a wealth of knowledge, and I have known her for, gosh, it's going on 2 years now. Is that right? When we reconnected? Uh-oh,
I think that sounds about right. Am I muted?
No, you're good. Sometimes there's a frozen moment. So if you don't, I notice that you'll come back on any moment.
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
I want to say 2 years ago, approximately, we met through another tiny house enthusiast who's based in San Diego, Stacy Murphy.
Yeah, Stacey
and then you came and lived in, and you sublet my tiny home at the time, my second tiny home.
Because we were looking for our sort of dream place in San Diego to be, and we loved being in your tiny home, which is actually going to be a feature of the song. And so tonight's Go Tiny Pro show is called Shelter Regeneration, a tiny house love song in the era of regeneration. So I want to start off right away and just get like, who's Ashley? Maybe we won't dive into regeneration yet, but just give me a sketch of like everyone else, a sketch of who you are and why you're so
Sure.
passionate about tiny homes.
Sure. And if at any point I'm frozen or something, just raise your hand. I'll connect to my device and maybe get a better connection. So I lived in my first tiny home in 2016. I feel like I could start my story there. But I've been a musician since I was 4. I started playing the piano when I was 4. So I was a musician first, and certainly toured with a band and had a really awesome music career and a bunch of cool opportunities. Now I'm a music director, but now I'm living in my 3rd tiny home. So between 2016 and now, I've hopped around a little bit. The first one I owned with my partner, he owned it, I guess, and he bought it for us, living there on a farm in Encinitas. We used to tour our tiny home and give all kinds of, I was on KPBS, I did an interview sort of educating the general public about the and the hurdles facing tiny homes, the environmental and climate components of tiny homes, as well as the affordable housing component of tiny homes. At the time, I was getting my master's degree in international environmental policy. So policy is definitely close to my heart, especially how the way that we live can change our environment and can have huge repercussions for future generations. So lately, I've been doing a lot of teaching children, but I also a gig in the evening. So I'm a music director by day at a local small school, a little private school in Del Mar. And the rest of the time, not only am I a tiny house dweller, but in my second tiny home, I actually wrote and recorded my very first tiny house love song, which is super unique and fun. So now the tiny house movement does have a little anthem. It's called Shelter. It's a Beatles themed tiny house love song. And I just plugged the DistroKid link into the chat because it's going to be released on June 1st, and there will be a music video in the tiny home. So that'll be super fun. We've got like an upright bass squeezed into the kitchen. We've got a full drum set squeezed into the little tiny, bathroom. I've got a pianist, and then of course I have my saxophone player all over the house, kind of popping out of windows, and we just had a ball with it. So currently I'm in a shipping container tiny home. You can tell that it's a shipping container by the fact that the walls are metal. And I've been here about a month. I'm not even fully, completely moved in. But you could say that I'm a veteran at this point with regard to tiny homes. And of course, I've known Lindsay and been following her work, showing up for tiny house events over the years and being very well acquainted with the industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And there was a couple times that you froze, just so you know.
Okay.
We kind of caught on with a little bit of it. But if you want to
Okay.
take a moment and go and shift gears, if that would be easier or better for you. Did other people find the same?
It may or may not be better.
Okay.
So let me try to do a hotspot.
Okay.
And
then
you can tell me if it's better.
This
Are
is a
you-
perfect time for me to share with everyone and ask all of you. One of the things that I ask from stages everywhere around the country, especially when we talk about tiny homes, is what are the top reasons why you want to go tiny? So I'm curious to know if anyone's got access. I know, Kathy's looks like you're at your desk. Lakeisha could be driving, who knows? But write in the chat, what is one of the top reasons why you want to go tiny or drives you to? It may be you're developing a tiny home. It could be from a different angle, like I want to give people affordable housing. For me, home ownership was one of our reasons. I feel like someone else was living my American dream every time I sent my rent check over there, right? And then I totaled up my rent check a number of times to realize like I pretty much bought a tiny home within 7 years of paying that rent. And so by seeing myself in that sort of cycle, I was like, when is this going to stop? And that's when we had to make some big life changes, and we did. And then we went tiny. We did have family help, but we could have gotten financing. Of course, financing was not as easy as then as it is now. And I want to share with everyone, the person I just connected with today means that I get to redo the finance portion of the Go Tiny Academy. one of the things that we talked about in the academy is that as things evolve in the industry, you will get to know them right away. So we just had an amazing conversation. There are some banks that have been pretty flexible, but this guy is even more flexible than the other ones and even better terms and all that kind of stuff. So I love it. Kate, I'd love to utilize all of my space, not having to clean areas I do not use or see. Absolutely. One of the other big ones that I got from we did a poll on Facebook. We said, I want to go tiny because, and then did an underscore line, fill in the blank. And we got 800 responses. I went through like and did little tick marks when I got, enough people. I think I did about a 50 set out of that 800. And if you know statistics, you can take that and extrapolate it. Home ownership, simplification, wanting to travel, and the fourth one, not to be left for last at all, sustainability, living lighter on the planet. And that has been corroborated by every presentation that I do. I do it with like the raising of hands and all that. Sustainability by far is part of that. So I'm curious to know, anyone here have sustainability or living lighter on the planet, reducing your carbon footprint, whatever way you want to perceive it? Is that a motivation? Put yes in the comments or raise your hand. Yeah, I get it. Not everyone's, I'm a raiser. Cheryl's a yes. Raising your hands, whether you do chat or raise or are on screen, because it is so, so important to me. Ashley and I share a love of the environment, so much so that I also got my master's, the very first, can't even say anything. The country's first green MBA was delivered to me and 8 other people, and it was called a green MBA. It was from New College of California, which is no longer in business, but we got it. And there we were standing there. We had the keynote speak. I don't know if anyone knows about Bioneers, but one of the Nina Simone's from Bioneers was actually the keynote speaker, and her gift to us was her business card. I did remember using it in my LED lighting days because she has really powerful connections. They do a yearly event. Now it's moved to Berkeley from Marin, and it's pretty much the pioneers of the environmental industry. And one of the things that I'm really excited when I found Ashley is that she spoke language that I speak. And even further, all of this focus on regeneration. So I'd love for you to take us through this, Ashley, and share with us what regeneration means and how you may apply it to the world of living tiny.
Sure, you got it. So regeneration is a term that I personally learned from Paul Hawken. There's a really awesome book called Regeneration. In fact, regeneration.org is a great place to visit just to check out how we can actually not just be sustainable and keep doing what we're doing, but actually how to regenerate the ecosystems that we've now ruined or polluted on planet Earth. Because unless your head is in a hole, by now that whether it's the plastic pollution crisis or it's, the climate crisis or the 6th mass extinction. I mean, I don't want to be sensational, but these are facts. Is we're in an environmental tipping point right now where it's critical that we do something. And if we don't do something, then we just live a lower quality of life. And in some cases, that's a very extreme, much, much lower quality of life for many, many, many more generations. So I learned the word regeneration from Paul Hawken, and I actually teach out of his book to my junior high school students because there are, I think, 100 solutions in that book of how to regenerate the planet, and as opposed to focusing on CO2, because as important as climate is, there are other important indicators of ill health in our environment. It's not just all about measuring carbon emissions. We certainly could. There's 100 ways in his book Drawdown that explains exactly how to draw the carbon out of the atmosphere and to reverse climate change in an economically viable way. I think that's a fantastic book as well. I like regeneration even more because the focus is on all the ecosystems. And so if you know what eco means, raise your hand. Does anybody know besides me what the actual root of eco is? So in Latin, it means home. And in my humble opinion, eco starts with your home, not only your body and how you treat your body and what you let in and out of your body, because that is that's kind of like your home. That's your home base, right? You live in your body, but in your actual household, what do you do with your waste? What do you do with your water? Where do you source your things from? Where do you get your food from? These are systems that you do all the time, that you are in control over, that also impact our environment. So it's sort of, I love that word, and I love that it means home, because for me, home has been the source of my own feeling of warmth and protection. And so it's fitting also that this single is called shelter, because at my home, I am in control. And that's the one thing I can do to be a part of climate solutions, environmental solutions, is I can run my home in a way that makes me feel good about myself. I can water my plants with my runoff water, for example. That's something that I can feel good about. And we can get into some more of those systems later as well. But tiny homes in and of themselves, even if you don't do all the sustainable things associated, like collecting rainwater from your roof, or perhaps doing composting toilets, right? Is tiny homes themselves, which range from like 100 to 400 square feet approximately, release about 2,000 pounds of carbon emissions per year versus the average.
Oops.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay, versus the average of 28,000 pounds of carbon emissions per year. That is a much lower number. So you're 1/14 of the footprint of the average size home in the US by going tiny. So that alone is massive. That's from the American Institute of Architects, by the way. So this is not like some obscure fact. The average ecological footprint for tiny home dwellers is much smaller. Now, ecological footprint includes not only carbon, but where did you get your wood from? Where did you get your materials from? All the water that is involved in making the materials and the energy used to make your home. The average ecological footprint is about 3.9 global hectares. Okay, most of us don't speak that language, versus the average of 8.4 global hectares. In other words, you're using less than half of the resources that the average American is using. Not to mention 366 million acres of biological productive resources could potentially be saved if just 10% of Americans downsize to a tiny home. Because if you've read some of these other books like Half Earth by E.O. Wilson and some of these thought leaders regarding conservation and how our forests need to be protected because our forests are the lungs of our planet, and you care about endangered species and you want to see biodiversity continue because there's things in science there that are super important for medicine and other things, then you care about not having a huge impact on our environment in terms of bulldozing an entire lot, right? Maybe it's better to just bring in a tiny home, and set something else. Anyways, those are some of the fun standout footprint, like quick facts that I turn to.
What was the 3.9 was the tiny home, and what was the regular size home, hectares?
8.4 global hectares is the national average.
Global hectares, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting. Go back to the 1950s, your average size of a square foot home was 1,000 square feet. There were more, there were less, 1,000, and 4 people live there. Now it's 2,500 square feet. And I don't know how this works out, but 2.5 people, as if there's a short person or something like that, or half a person. But that is very common statistic again and again. One of the podcasts I was just on, I was just listening, Eco Justice Radio, and I was talking about the exact same things. Small home equals smaller materials. All the things that had to go into making those materials result in pollution. When they cut down a tree, when they mill a tree, when they make a window, when they make insulation, like anything that's made is going to be taking energy. So if the home that you have is 400 square feet versus 4,000, and then I went in a little bit more on another podcast, Earthlings coming up, in the notion that when you live in a square footage that's bigger, you can heat and cool it, right? Maybe you can afford that, but we all pay for the pollution that gets generated. And in my master's program, we called that ecological economics. And the people that are using the heating and cooling are not paying for the economics that it's impacting the planet. If
Externality.
so, we wouldn't live in 4,000 square foot homes. It'd be so expensive. If the real cost, like what if it was instead of $200 or $300 to heat or cool your home, it was like 1,000, people would completely change. They would do more insulation, they would downsize, they would do all those things. But we don't have.
Yeah, we're passing on the bills to the next generation is what we're doing, and the poor, because currently the poor are suffering the results of climate change. There are entire islands that are being lost because of sea level rise, right? And is anyone compensating them? Nobody's compensating them. They're just refugees now. And it's like, who's taking responsibility for that? Not to guilt you guys. I want you to leave actually feeling really happy and excited that you have control over so many aspects of your life that make it a better world.
Well, and the good news about who's here, there's a mix. There's those that are like Cheryl, I know you're getting your own home on land and it's going to be a smaller footprint, right?
Yes.
And then Lakeisha's got property that she's doing, actually multiple properties where she's developing where people can live in smaller units, just like where I'm at right now is in a new RV park. It used to just be raw land. It was where horses roamed, beautiful place, but then it got transformed into an RV park / tiny home park. And now these lots are 2,250 square feet to put a tiny home of 400 square feet and still have plenty of room for a car, your outdoor decking, because then you can live more outdoors, and have 250 people all connected together where you don't have to have lawnmowers and the same, everyone having to have all the tools and equipment. You can share the items as well as share the local pool and the hot tub that we do have on site, which is great. Okay, so
that segues really nicely into the different ways that I've lived in tiny homes contrast. Because the last place that I lived, we did share a lot of resources. I did live in a community. It was a community. Lindsay got to experience this for the summer, but I lived in a community of about 20 people. There were, I think, 4 tiny homes. One of them was a music studio. And then the rest of them were kind of normal-ish size homes with families in them. They co-bought this property together 10 years ago. This is a really unique way of raising kids, but their intention in that community was to raise their kids together, to co-parent, to share those responsibilities, and also so their kids could have a more social life, social experience. And during COVID, it was amazing to live there because you didn't get lonely. You know, you didn't ever have to worry about getting lonely. You just saw people regularly. You'd run into people in the yard. You'd see their dogs. You'd see their kids. I had a swing outside my house, so there were half the time the kids were laughing, you know, within earshot of my house. And we did buy food together. We bought toilet paper together. You know, we went on these big orders of things, and we would, in particular, get those environmental products. But we would get them at a bargain because we were buying them together. And of course, the tools, the same thing. We had a massive tool shed. We shared all the same tools, and there were shared spaces. So our pool was for the whole property. Most of the time, there was no one even in there for 20 people. So can you imagine? I mean, the difference, the footprint between a family of 2.5, you know, having their own pool versus a pool that's shared. You know, you see this in apartment complexes. This isn't, you know, rocket science. This isn't new, but that is a very different experience than either the first or the third home that I've been in.
and how's the third? What's that like?
Yeah, so I am now officially in an ADU in somebody's backyard, basically. They pulled in 2 shipping containers. There's 2 decks. I call it my double-decker tiny home. Because it has 2 big decks, which, as you know, makes the place feel massive. I mean, for me, this is plenty of space. You can see one deck out here. There's a little outdoor shower just to this side. There's a really nice view of the sunset out there. And then on this side, there's a deck separating my studio in here, which has the kitchenette, which has my couch and my computer, from my bedroom and my bathroom. So that deck I use for exercise. I'll do a workout there in the morning. I do my seeds and my starts out there for when I want to plant things. So that's a great use of that little outdoor space for me.
That is so great. And so how is it going from the community to the, you know, we have a lot of people that are, you know, in the academy that want to develop property for other people. And so there's the, you know, person that's going to live there. And that is so interesting. And there's many models of that. There's the small community. There's the really big one like we're in right now, the 250 owned by a family. There's bigger communities that you can all co-own it together, more of a tenants in common or a park HOA type of model. So what have you researched models, like which one do you feel is best that can really support regeneration practices? Because anyone going into this process is going to be looking for land either with an existing home or multiple homes or an RV park or raw land. And what we're still
Yeah.
talking about is the land. How do you set yourself up for regenerative practices?
Totally. Well, first of all, it depends on your day job a little bit, because if you're living in a community that has really high demands and you have a high demand job and you come home exhausted and they want to have a 3-hour meeting, that's not going to work for you. That's not regenerative for your body, right? That's number one. Your body's number one. That's the house that you take care of first. Then you take care of the house you have control over, the one, you know, that you live in, right? And then you start taking care of your community, and then there's policy and there's the world and everything else. But for me, it got a little bit overwhelming when I lived at the Emerald Village, because I took a new job and I'd never been a music director before. And it was intense at certain times of year when I would be creating these school-wide performances and I'd come home exhausted. I mean, I just literally wanted to talk to no one. I wanted to be on the couch, and I'm a very energetic person. So this was like very unusual for me. I'm very social. I love to be around people, but there were certain times when I was just like, I can't do a community dinner right now. My voice is gone. I've lost my voice. I have a show tomorrow. I'm supposed to be singing in front of, 100 people tomorrow, and I don't have a voice. And so for me, regenerative meant quiet, downtime, nothingness, right? So right now, I think the arrangement I have currently works for my lifestyle, because the family that lives here, they grow their own food, they capture water, they have chickens, they're doing a lot of the things that I care about. And so I can talk to them about those things. I can collaborate with them on those things. But at the end of the day, there's zero expectation. So when I have the summer off and they want to do a big project in the backyard, you better bet that I will have a shovel in my hand and I will be very excited to help build swales, right? To capture water and keep water on the property, which is one of the basic principles of permaculture, if you've ever studied permaculture. But when I have a long week like I did last week, there is no expectation that I'm doing anything. And I like that. It's all consensual and it's all in the moment what I feel like. So I appreciate that a lot. And we are co-collaborators in creating the space because it hasn't really been lived in long term. So things like shelving, there just isn't a lot of good solid storage space. They've had mainly artists here that use this as a studio, and I would like to use it as a living space.
And for anyone, I just want to put out someone that I really connected with early on. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting her name. Jill. Jill's her name, with Search Tiny House Villages. She's probably the one person that is an overlap with really diving into intentional community and how you want to set that up, down to contracts and all those kind of things, to also tiny home focus, right? So I was really big into, I also lived in a community in 2006. That's where I met Jay Schaefer, godfather of tiny homes. Actually built his third tiny home before all this. The reason why we're all sitting here today, Jay built his third tiny home on the property that I lived on. It was 300 acres. There was about 30 people there. We practiced intentional community practices. We also had those community dinners, and I totally feel you, Ashley. There's parts where I was like, I cannot do it on Saturday when I've worked a full week. And there I am, where some people didn't have as demanding a lifestyle and they could,
And it was great. They needed it. In fact, they were lonely even, possibly.
Yeah. The other one
Yeah.
is to really watch out for the single owner model. We own and you pay rent,
Mhm.
right? So really watch that in your development models, because that also equals, more of like, if you think about, there's the environment and the planet and water and all the things that we can see or touch, but then there's the social network, right? And if you really feel supported by your community, whatever that may be. There was recently in this amazing thing done by John Oliver, all about HOAs and how scary they can be, including manufactured home parks. So I want to caution anyone going down this road of, I want to develop a community, to maybe not fall into or prey of the normal capitalistic mechanisms of ownership. It doesn't mean you can't be an investor and make money, because if you're putting your money in, I truly believe that you need to bring it back out. but there is a point in terms of how much, right? So really watching that, I forgot that, like shark investing, or there's a word or term for it that's skipping my mind right now. Anything, about that, Ashley, more around the social aspect, because people are developing a community and there's a lot to it if you've never done it. There's a lot of people involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content out there by Diana Leaf Christensen for people that want to live in community. If you're interested in sociocracy, that's a really popular model for decision making, but that's assuming everyone has more or less equal say. If people have kind of equal say because they all bought the land together, and you just need a really good way to communicate and to make decisions together. If I had to shorten what I know of that model, which is what the Emerald Village used, I would essentially say that you have the right to veto anything. So something really rubs you the wrong way and you're like, absolutely not, we are not getting goats. I do not like goats. I don't want to hear the goats. I don't want to smell the goats. You can do that at any time. The alternative is to go in rounds around a circle and essentially express your concern. I'm not saying no to the goats, but I'm concerned about the smell. I'm concerned about the sound. Is there any way we could put them over there? And then the person that proposed that particular decision has the opportunity to come back with addressing your concerns. Okay, next meeting, we're going to talk about addressing Ashley's concerns, and we're going to explore other possibilities for where we can put the goats, not near her house because she doesn't want to hear them. And then they come back and they do another round and they see if they can resolve whatever the people's concerns are. So sociocracy is a really good way to do it. I honestly like being a renter. I'm not sure that I want to live long-term in San Diego. So for me, this model works really well. I don't have the savings to purchase a tiny home at this exact moment. There were times that I did, but I'm happy that I didn't actually, because I've got to experience multiple tiny home communities. There are people out there that would love to include work trade. There's a whole community, what are they called? It's an online app. It's a permaculture app. I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but okay, do you know what it is?
Woofers?
Well, there's woofers, and then there's one more. I'm probably going to think of it in a second, but people look for experiences, and they might want to go live somewhere and do a work trade, right? And woofing is one way to do it. So if you buy a farm, you can essentially have someone come and do a work trade for you, where instead of paying them to put in a water catchment system or paying them to tend to the land and to grow food, you might offer them a place to stay in exchange for their labor. Now, is that long-term sustainable? Usually not. Most people need to pay their cell phone bill, to pay, whatever it is. But sometimes they have another job online that they work 5 hours a week and that they manage to cover their expenses. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, is in my first experience, I had a work trade agreement with the owner. And so I was going to grad school, I was starting a nonprofit, and I was able to live in my house for free in exchange for about 10 hours of my free labor per week, promoting her farm, growing food on her farm, maintaining all of her systems, walking the goats, taking care of the chickens, doing all of this organic, biodynamic permaculture, essentially. And I learned a ton, and it was really positive. So that's something to keep in mind too.
And just to share with everyone, I'm now a month and a half into being here at the Whistle Stop RV and Tiny Home Park with 250 sites. And our agreement is that I'm here and my husband and I are here with our tiny home. We have a space, everything is free. For that, we do the tours of the tiny homes. And on top of that, I get commissions when I sell a tiny home. So, and then really I'm engaged with the local area. I'll just share with you all now too, because what I want to do, I don't have all this in agreements or contracts, which is absolutely super something that I would recommend. But I also really felt comfortable doing it because I knew the people, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning what it's like to have someone that owns the property and put in millions of dollars to develop this, which I didn't have to. I'm learning what it's like to have a company that's put in a lot of time and energy and 60,000 square feet of building space to build a tiny home business. I don't have to do that. All I have to do is sit here and go, well, let's see, I'm going to get free location. I'm going to get to know the local area. In fact, I just was at a chamber meeting this morning got a stack of business cards, very impressed with the Prescott Chamber, because this is really a way for me to yet offer another skill set. Like, oh, Lakeisha, you just bought a village? Great. I know how to launch that for you. That's my next skill level that I'm developing. I haven't developed it yet because I'm still literally in the process of it right now. But these are all things that as you go out to develop, for people that are considering developing small or big, these are great opportunities to think about, because you may need things from people that you don't have funds for, but you've got the land and you've got the opportunity. And speaking of the land and the opportunity is a great segue to really showcase the thing that we're very excited about that's hot off the presses, because the second home that you lived in, this whole tiny home love song, tell me more, and I'm going to share my screen to
Yeah,
the campaign.
that would be awesome.
Okay.
So this tiny house love song came about in my Indiegogo campaign. You'll hear one thing, which is that it was just begging for a song. And on one hand, that's true, but that's not the whole story. So I have a friend from graduate school who really wanted to do a climate oriented project. They wanted to do a film project. And if you know me, you know I'm passionate about environmental art in particular, inspiring others to regenerate the planet, right? Creatively inspiring people to regenerate the planet, or ecological regeneration. And so my friend came to me, she said, we'd really love to do a film project on you. What do you think? Should we just like interview you and talk about maybe tiny homes, or we could talk about your experience doing climate action planning, or in, you know, environmental like energy systems and energy programs with the city. And I said, you know, I've always wanted to do a tiny house music video. And she sort of looked at me like, huh, I don't know if we want to, are we ready for that? I don't know. And I said, well, let me write a song and let's talk to your friend Jason. So her friend Jason is this amazing, amazing film dude who has made some incredible music videos. And I watched a couple of music videos. Yeah, that's Christine.
Cool.
And then we have the saxophone player hanging out there on the couch. And we put together this beautiful, amazing song that that is a fusion of, I would say different genres, but I would put it in the pop genre, maybe a little bit of some jazz influences, because I sing with mainly jazz players. And I wrote this song about my tiny home, and it does reference, of course, that it's a small footprint for your pocketbook, you know, that it's good for the environment, but it's also just a playful ode to tiny homes. It's just a celebration of my tiny home and how much I love it, and how, you know, he protects me, and how, you know, how I love him so much. And this music video is dropping on June 1st along with the single. And so number one, I'm really excited to tell people in the tiny house movement about the song, because I think you'll just love it. You'll just find it fun, and you should just listen to it in your car, whatever streaming service you have, whether it's Spotify or Apple, whatever. Like, it'll be included in your streaming service. It doesn't cost you a dime. However, if you'd like to create content, if you're someone on Instagram, or you're on YouTube or something like that, I do have this song available for people to use, and even potentially before the song comes out. So I just had someone purchase, they want to get a poster, and then they're going to get the song early, and they're going to get a bunch of pictures of us in the tiny house filming this awesome music video. But I'm also offering, and what Lindsay's pointing to right now, I'm also offering actually custom writing songs for people. So her friend Jay, who's the godfather of the tiny homes, for example, has a rap song. And I have a friend named Kiyoshi, who is an incredible rapper, and an amazing performer, he's worked with some of the best people. And I have my friend Eric, who I toured with to opening for Beats Antique. I did like the festival circuit South by Southwest. I did Lightning in a Bottle. I did a bunch of different amazing gigs, you know, for a year and a half, Belly Up here in San Diego, all those types of in an electronic duo. And he's offered to do the production for that one. So I'm basically offering people, I could produce an entire song, a dance song or a rap song, for $1,500. That is pennies. That is like, you cannot do that unless you have like friends in the industry. So for people that are looking for like a really unique gift for a partner, you know, or something that is just special to them, I am offering that. And I know Jay's looking for a sponsor because he wrote a rap song, and we really want to have Kiyoshi do it. We already found the beat and everything. We're like ready to go with the song. But then we're offering custom music videos for, I think it's, I don't remember which one that is. There's one for 2222 and 3333.
There you go.
But also we're having a party. We want to have a party and celebrate the launch of this song on June 1st. So if you want to have a party and have a live band show up at your place, especially if you're going to one of the Colorado tiny house festivals, we would love to go do a tour out there and go there and do a few concerts. No one's purchased those yet. I just launched this and I've been swamped, so I actually haven't hardly promoted it at all. But we're just trying to get the word out. So if anyone comes to mind, if you're really into tiny home podcasts, or you know someone with a tiny house TV show or something, please let them know that this is a really unique opportunity to bring the arts into the tiny house conversation. Especially, you know, I'm able to obviously speak to the topic and have personal experience and can speak to the environmental components of this. But I really just want people to enjoy the song and spread the word and help us go on tour, because that would be really fun for those 2 weeks to do the 2 Colorado tiny house festivals.
I love it. And do you mind giving us a quick clip? Because you probably have the best recording on your computer, not the whole thing, because remember, the whole thing comes out June 1st. So for anyone as low as the Cabana, I love these names, the Cabana Fana Fofana, which she's got all these unique verbiage inside this song. And so this is also some of her art. There's that cute little picture of all the Beatles inside her tiny home, which is the inspiration of the song. I love the flautist playing right there next to the song. And then literally the little like ladder, Biddy Hooch. These are all names of shelters. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I spent a lot of time with the dictionary when I was writing this tune because I was just looking for fun language to, again, celebrate tiny homes. And, you know, shanty is a great word. You know, she shed. We all use the word she shed. Some of these are a little bit of a stretch. You know, want to be your hutch. Like a hutch is a little cage for an animal. Like it's not exactly a house, but it's a metaphor. You know, I want to use, you know, a few different kind of fun. I reference crib. You know, my well-mannered tie the knot cots, right? So
Show us a little bit more about this picture, because you didn't just get that on clip art.
True. Yeah. So I am learning the art of Adobe. I have been using a different program for some time, but I really would like to get better at graphic design and do more and more of these. I do a lot of graphic art for friends and family for special occasions. And I really want to be able to, this is the beginning of a poster. This is a drawing of me. I'd like to actually be standing on the tiny house with a band. But the thought is to finish the poster and to create, you know, a list of all the different locations that we will be performing in Colorado. And of course, have shelter written nicely underneath in our font that we've chosen. Jason's helped me narrow down a few different fonts that seem to fit the theme. So there's some art that comes with this for sure. The poster being, you know, being the most exciting, I think, in terms of visual art happening in this campaign.
Yes, you've got artists, you've got song. When her and I, for the last 2 years, we've just been collaborating. It's been like, for those of you that know me here in the Academy, and know me out there in the world, I've talked a lot about building standards and zoning laws, because I truly believe that we've got to really understand the thing that would most block us. And number one, I just talked to a woman like, tell me what land is available that I can just put multiple homes on. And I'm like, right? Like, yes, I can, but not in 15 minutes, right? And I have an entire like suite of information that can get you there. And I remember 4 years ago, all I could really do was talk to someone about the builder and the design. We didn't even have financing. Now we have financing, and now as of today, we're going to have even better financing. So I got to go and redo some of the financial world in the Academy. And then now we've got more people that can handle the land and the zoning. So as you can imagine, all this like zoning and building standards, when I found Ashley, there's sort of the part of me that's like the dancer, the singer, the wanting to just have fun, just naturally comes out. And so with the shows coming up in Colorado, we'd love to get this met. $2,500 is not that much. So if you feel inspired to support it, whatever perk you want to get, this one, the Cabana Fana Fofana is the lowest amount. You know, you get the pre-release track, the digital photos that she's been doing, and then the next one, Sweet Sweet, is the one where you actually get the poster. And then it just goes on for there. I will jump up. This is like the full-on explosion party. which is the one that I wanted to buy. Okay, I cannot lie. You get live aerial dancing, photo shoot. These are the ones that we really feel could be available for builders. So if you're connected to any company in this industry that is doing really well, let us know. And they want to get,
Have a marketing
targeted.
budget. I mean, this is marketing 101, right? Like have a jingle, have a song, have some cool content that, that makes this a lifestyle bit,
Yes, absolutely. And so I personally got the photo and video shoot is the one that I wanted, with my eco-friendly tiny home related product, which is the Go Tiny Academy. So we'll be seeing, and then I do want to upgrade. I gotta sell me some tiny homes pretty soon. And then I do want to upgrade to actually having my own song. And where we're really kind of going with all this is an album. Right now, Shelter's one song, but we want to grow an album. Jay Schaefer's rap song is another one. Everything related to the tiny home movement. So really excited about that. Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing this amazing work that
I
you've
pulled
been
up the
doing.
song.
Oh yeah.
If you want to hear a clip, it's going to be a random clip because I'm not sure where in the song it is.
That's
but
okay.
Here's a little sample. Ready? Here you go.
Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. Is it playing? It's not playing as well. It's not coming through well on Zoom. I don't want to crush it.
Well, the good thing is if you watch the video, the Indiegogo video, there are clips in there of the song. There's one in the beginning, and then at the end, you get like a good 20 seconds of the song.
Yes. In fact, I could play that right now. How about that? That might come through. Tell me.
That might come through better.
Okay, here, we'll just do that. And then we'll go there. And then you guys will see she explains herself, talks all about the song, and now
Ashley. Smash. I am a self-professed tiny home.
okay, now we'll play the very end.
The content explosion begins.
I love it. Does anyone have any questions about the campaign, regeneration, eco ways of living tiny, for your own projects? Happy to answer. We've got the pro here, Miss Regeneration herself.
I would say I'm just happy to learn about the whole concept because I don't think I've ever necessarily heard of that. So that was cool.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, Kathy is putting together a volume of education and knowledge. What would you say, Ashley, for someone that are really looking at land development? You just said the word swale and permaculture so easily. I know a lot about it because those are my friends and my people, but permaculture may be totally new to someone. Anyone not know about permaculture here that buying land? Because how rain falls on land, how you store water, especially in areas where there's been drought. Even if California's had a banner of wet year, we've also had a lot of drought. So maybe you can enlighten us on maybe just water, because I know there's a bazillion things to learn about in permaculture. You can go for an entire week and do a permaculture course.
Well, first off, yeah, I did my permaculture certification up in Grass Valley, and there are certain principles that help to guide a permaculture design. And to get started, I think the most important thing is that you understand what permaculture is. So there's sustainability, which is the idea that you can do something ongoing for a long time. Permaculture goes a little bit beyond sustainability. It's a little bit more like the word regeneration, in that you're looking for systems that could potentially be permanent systems that would not injure the planet, that continues to regenerate resources at the same pace that you're using them, right? Or even better. So, for example, okay, just to think about water. One of the principles of permaculture is to catch and store energy. So why would you let water just land on your land and then rush off, right? Basically out to the ocean, because that's what happens when it's in the gutters. It's better to plant stuff, right? It's better to have barrels. It's better to have swales. Swales are one way of capturing water. But there's lots of different ways to capture water and save energy on your land. Another one is, okay, are you using a composting toilet? This one's a conversation that I would love to have and actually ask all of your opinions on. because I'm on the market for a good composting toilet. I have the old fashioned, like super old school composting toilet going on right now. And I'm like ready to try the Nature's Head, right? Or some of these other, I've heard of incinerating toilets. There's a lot of different types, right? I happen to be on land where I could dig a big hole and I could empty a composting toilet every 3 months into that hole and literally just fill it, right? Like not everyone has that luxury. I could do that here. Now, is that legal? No. But it's sustainable. It's permaculture. That's real nutrition that I hate to say it, but like we're pumping our sewage out basically into no man's land. I think they're allowed to sell some of the dry solids from our sewage treatment to farms, right? Way down the line. But think about it, it's like 6 gallons of water every time you flush your toilet. So as long as you're not living right next to a well where you are actually going to be jeopardizing the water supply, you could definitely think about keeping your waste, that valuable nutrition. It's some of the best nutrition out there, right? People buy horse manure and cow manure and bring the poop onto their land because it's good for the soil, right? People have their chickens rotating on their land so that poop ends up on the trees, right? It's super good for plants and it's super good for actually making your soil better, which keeps the water there longer, right? That increases the fungal growth and the mycelium and all the plant growth there. So so there's a lot of different permaculture principles. That's just one. You know, renewable energy, produce no waste. So like, you know, what waste, like your compost from your kitchen, maybe like your food scraps. Are you able to have a composting system where you put that stuff in a bin that turns it essentially into soil over, you know, the course of a year or a couple of years? If the answer is yes, great, consider doing it, because you really are wasting that resource when you just throw it into the municipal waste.
Yes, wonderful, Ashley. Thank you so much. This has been, the toilet talk is coming. I think it needs its own go
I
type
want it.
show, because you know what you mentioned, the Nature's Head and Separate,
Just that.
believe it or not, are not composting toilets. They hold a certain amount of waste, but they're urine diverting toilets, right? Which is a really good
Yes,
key
they
part of the whole start of the thing. That means you can take your solids, put it off into either human or put it into landfill, which is then sending your nutrients away. Bye-bye. It's kind of like bagging up all your leaves in a trash bag and then putting it into landfill. Just basically taking away a lot of nutrients.
Do that.
If you live in a house and you're not allowed to keep it and you have no place to compost, I get it. That's where people have to go put those things. And this is where our systems are a bit broken. I know here in Arizona, I'm like, we don't even have recycling bins in this park. I'm like, it's hard. We keep saving our recycling. Like we have to find a local place. We just have to. I just, you know, and yet I get it. Recycling takes a lot of energy too. So with all of that, let's put a pin in the compost toilet talk. But I will say Nature Loo out of Australia would be the amazing product for you to take a look at. Okay, I just abandoned my.
Do you think they need someone to review their product / write them a song? Just saying.
They actually do need someone, believe it or not. Sonoma County is the very first county that just passed and legalized composting toilets, but they have to be NSF certified. And you're like, I've been doing composting toilets for years. I don't know what NSF certified. So what I found out is that they have to go on a quest of a family of 4 using their composting system and documenting all of this. So you might be able to connect someone to do that, but we absolutely, and I literally have the toilet to hand over to someone to do that.
Yeah, we've got a family of 4. I have a family of 4, no problem. We can do that.
Let's do that, because this one, it sits above ground, right? Above in the tiny home. And then the composting sits below it in this chamber. You've got excess hose, leachate drain, air vent pipe, crank handle, so that when it starts piling up, you kind of crank it so it can flatten down. Then you have an out of service chamber, just so everyone knows that people get squeamish about the whole human waste. As long as you compost it down for like 6 months to a year and get all the pathogens out of it, and it's got enough heat and all that kind of stuff, you're good to go. So this is where somewhere like Sonoma County, who's already said yes, as long as it's NSF certified, that means we have a certification. There is one available, and it just means that this company needs to go through that. But look at that baby. Isn't that sexy? such a pretty toilet.
Wow.
I mean, I've had the
Yeah.
separate, I've seen the Nature's Head. Nothing looks as good as that one, for sure. So,
I want
women,
to talk to them.
yeah. And yet, the biggest issue is it allowed? And we're not the permit police. We're not the toilet police. I've learned.
Yeah, but a lot of cities are receptive to this kind of stuff. Especially because they want to, a lot of cities want to support tiny, and I just think you have to break it down. You really have to break it down, like what's happening in these tiny homes. And right now it's required to plug in, right? You got to plug into septic, you got to plug into sewer, and maybe that's how it will be forever. But the reality is you can do toilet composting in a very safe way. I mean, it's a very safe way. But we also have to teach people how to do it properly, and people have to do it properly. Otherwise you do end up with real problems.
All right, toilet talk all before 6 p.m. Anyone have any questions just in general for Ashley before we say goodbye and say, yes to shelter, yes to regeneration, yes to going tiny? Ding.
Yes to all of that. Thank you. I don't have any questions though.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Was anything new for you in what you were just hearing?
Well, all of it is kind of new, that part of it, because when you're thinking about the compost, the toilets, and we're thinking about that for the glamping tents. I hadn't even talked to you about the glamping tents, but yes. So when she was talking about that, I was definitely thinking about that part of it.
Yeah. How do you put something over there? One thing I will share in Mendocino County, I'm actually going to be meeting with the Yavapai County. This is a county north of Phoenix area. I think Maricopa County is Phoenix and Yavapai is above that in Prescott area. And we're meeting with the mayor and the vice mayor and a bunch of council members who've been doing an 8-month affordable housing study sessions for 8 months. And we finally have come in at the final hour. And she actually texted me and said, what are some of the questions she wants to get me involved in the process? And the best way to do that is to ask a question. And so I gave her leading questions and she said, those are perfect. I mean, just so you know, when we work with these officials, they're dealing with so much at a city level that we have a lot of the knowledge that oftentimes we're guiding them, but they're also in their systems and their processes, right? Ashley knows about this from being in public policy as a master's.
I've presented too.
There's rules that they have to follow. There's things that they can and can't do. There's all those kind of things. So I'm always like there to say, here's the briefing document. Here's questions that you could ask me, and that could trigger the thing, because they're coming at this from, I know we need it. This is great, but how do I formulate the question and get it in a way that other people can go like, oh, that was a good question. And then now the expert is doing the answer. This literally happened in Mendocino County. And one of the inspectors brought up, how about instead of like full on septic system for this little tiny home, what if we can do a mini septic? And that's something that was received by the planning director. Then the planning director went back to the environmental, I'm not sure what their name was, some other department with sanitation, right? That's their department. And then the sanitation department was going to go back to the state to see what else has been done at this level. So things are moving in a direction, and it just takes asking the right questions. It just takes putting ourselves in front of these people that are guiding our cities and counties. And they're regular people. They do regular jobs, they have businesses, and then they also do government service, right? So politicians.
So Lindsay, do you have a cheat sheet for that? Because that I'm not at that phase yet with Alabama, but I most certainly will be. And I have been asked to speak to those that are, the powers that be when I do get into that space. So if there is something that I can go and prepare, read up on, and just like you said, the questions and all of those things, I would love that, because I'm going to be dealing with that probably in the next 3 or 4 months, and it would be great to prepare for that.
I've got something even better. It's finally become a program. So all of you here in the Go Tiny Academy, when you signed on, you got a year free individual membership to the Tiny Home Industry Association. Pretty much when you hear Thea, think legalizing tiny homes on wheels around the country. So oftentimes wheels, permanent, you know, in areas like Alabama, they may have not have passed state level, the accessory
Mhm.
dwelling unit, which means a little home on, you know, in the backyard, like where
Mhm.
Ashley's at right now, right? You just mentioned you're in an ADU in the backyard. It's the only other one other than the main home. That is pretty much the big going, like, the thing that's going to pass across the country and change housing as we know it and give more multi-generational housing, more opportunities for families to say, I love you, son or daughter, but you got to be in the backyard in your own independent life versus
Mhm.
in the home still. I've had 4 conversations this weekend at a home and garden show with family that was like, our kids are still at home. We love them. We want them to leave, but the housing is crazy and expensive. So we can't. So, you know, what's a family to do? Go multi-generational on the land. So what Thea has done is created a sponsored jurisdiction, and you get the briefing document, you get Dan to come out on a Zoom call with the elected officials, because it's just a matter of like, if just like DIYing your own path in the going tiny journey, why people are here in the academy is because they're like, I kind of want to fast track the path. I want to get access to the people and the knowledge. And that's what we're doing, the sponsored jurisdiction. And it's $1,000. You're either sponsoring a city or a county. So think about that for a moment. Like, I'm sponsoring Mendocino County, home to thousands and thousands of people that could have ripples of generations for years to come because of this ordinance that I'm helping them pass. So there we go. If you're interested, Lakeisha, let's talk about that, or anyone else that wants to talk
By
about
the
that.
way, I personally changed Encinitas policy, and then worked for the city of San Diego. Like, you plant these seeds, sometimes it takes 6 or 7 years, but there's nothing more gratifying than knowing that I taught the mayor of Encinitas what community choice energy is, and that's the reason we're moving towards renewable energy now, and as a community, through a community aggregation program. It's so rewarding, but it is a long haul. So don't, you kind of just have to know that, right? And there's a lot of education, just like you said, a lot of slide decks. You may have to present to multiple commissions. You got to get the environment commission on board. You got to get the water people on board, whatever it is. But it's a lot of personal conversations, building trust before they're sort of willing to go to the next step.
Yeah, great. I know she had to pop off, but thank you so much, Ashley, for being here and sharing your insights and knowledge. Let everyone in the chat give Ashley a big round of applause in your way. Share one of the big takeaways or ways that you love what she shared. That's probably the best thing. If anything that kind of hits you in the core. Love the discussion. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm super excited to be speaking about this topic because it's near and dear to my heart.
It was nice meeting you all. Don't be shy. Feel free to hit me up on social media or stay in touch however you want. But I'm an ally, so nice to meet you all.
And support the campaign. We want to go to Colorado and tour this music song. Woohoo!
Right. Yeah, definitely listen to Shelter. Check it out. Pre-save it today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.